I'm Mackenzie Price, and welcome to Gifted Minds Beyond the Classroom. As parents of GT kids, one thing we don't have to worry about is them not being smart. My kids make my head spin sometimes. From an academic standpoint, these kids can excel if they choose to, so that usually isn't a concern. But I believe that so much of what allows a gifted and talented child to not just succeed, but truly unlock their potential is the development of life skills. The list of important life skills is long. At GT School, I help kids develop skills like taking ownership, ambitious goal setting, and having a mastery mindset. Kids don't necessarily learn these skills in the classroom, especially GT kids who can meet the standards expected without really having to try. But even the basic skills we use to handle day-to-day stuff like focus and self-control, problem solving, and communication are underdeveloped in kids today. And if your child is twice exceptional, this could be an even bigger issue in your life. To launch our first episode focused on life skills, I invited Duke University professor Sue Wasiolek to join me. You will hear about her various roles and how she has built a strong connection with young people at the university for over 4 decades. Not only is college about academics, but it's also a really big life skills test. As parents, have we raised them with the basic skills necessary to be out in the big world by themselves? Dr. Sue knows about this firsthand because she's seen kids succeed and fail. If you are like me, you may think you do a good job with this, but I know that I accidentally do things that sabotage my kids' development, and I don't mind calling myself out. We can all use help in this area. So at the end of the episode, I'm going to give you 3 takeaways that will help you crush this parenting thing. So check it out as we go beyond the classroom. Dean Sue, I have heard about you from so many of my friends who went to Duke. I feel like you are famous. Thank you so much for joining us.
Mackenzie, it's a real treat to be with you today. But you need to know I am not famous. But as a dean of students, we deal so many times with disciplinary matters. And I think when you talk with former Duke students, you're hearing about their experiences with me in my role as the dean of students. They may not admit to you that they had disciplinary issues, but maybe they did.
I'll have to keep that in mind when I talk to them again and say, Dean Sue told me something about you as well.
They will tell you everything after you say that. They will want to tell you the whole story. People want to share disciplinary records, and I'm not sure why.
That's true. You went to Duke as an undergrad, and you basically never left. You were 40 years as a dean of students. You're a teaching professor. I think it's safe to say that you have a really great understanding and connection with the young people that are going to Duke.
Yeah, I want to think that I have had that understanding and that connection. It's hard to be someplace for 40 years and not really get to know the people, the students, the place. And I also had this incredible opportunity to live with 200 freshmen for almost 10 years in a residence hall. And so I've also had an opportunity to experience students at a couple of other schools over the years, including graduate and professional students. So yeah, a lot of students, a lot of connections. I've tried to maintain those connections over the years, but full disclosure to anyone watching this video, I have no children of my own. But I sure do know a lot of other people's children, and I have a lot of advice for them.
So with an acceptance rate of less than 6%, I think it's very safe to say that these kids are really smart, but are they prepared well for college?
The students that I've interacted with over the years are, as you said, very, very smart. They are so book smart. They know the traditional school subject matter areas as well as any 17, 18 to 22-year-old that you could possibly imagine. But many of them do have to make some adjustments to just tackling some of the issues that come about with more difficult level college classes. And they may have to also figure out how to study more effectively and how to manage their time. So many of them were able to do both of those things very easily in high school, where they really need some work. And this has become more evident in the last probably 10 to 15 years, is just in their overall preparation for life. More specifically, what you and I may have considered very simple life skills that sort of lay the basis and the foundation for adulthood are frankly woefully lacking in so many students today. Um, it used to be that there were a lot of jokes, even when I went to college, about being able to do your own laundry, that that was something that you needed to learn before you left home. But today, even for many highly resourced students, they don't even need to worry about how to do their laundry because their parents have arranged and paid for some type of weekly laundry service for them. Parents today have a better relationship with their children than ever before, any generation before. And I think that part of that really great relationship is the support that parents are showing to their children. The question is, when does that support start and stop? And how do we make certain that it is done in such a way that we are really preparing kids for life after childhood?
That is a great piece of wisdom that we should all be thinking about. A lot of kids are lacking those basic skills like cleaning up after themselves. Even talking to other people, I think communication has become an issue. I have friends who will go to a restaurant and they will order for their children as if the waiter and the child aren't right there. You know, they'll say, "What would you like?" The child will say what they want, and then they'll repeat it to the waiter, and it's crazy to watch that.
Yeah, it is crazy. I sort of call that the parental translation. And they refer to their child who is sitting, as you said, right there, almost in the third person. Um, and I notice this so much when I am talking with students and parents about the college application process and the admissions process, which is a whole nother subject for a whole nother day. But I might ask the student a simple question about, tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you like to do. What is your favorite topic? And immediately the parent will jump in and feel compelled to answer for that student. So I've had to actually invite parents to leave the office so that I could have a private conversation with their child and make certain that I would get the answer from the child directly. One of the most frustrating things for me has been talking with parents and a student about the college admissions process, and the parent jumping in and saying, well, we are applying to this school and we have decided that we will be looking at this number of schools. And we have decided that on the application, we are going to include this. And I have to stop, but sometimes I hesitate to not stop and say to the parent, we are doing all of these things. And I'll give you another example. Certainly these days, none of us want to get sick. We've been dealing with COVID and so many other illnesses over the last several years. But when we do need healthcare, when we do get sick, we want to be able to access it, know how to make an appointment, know how to find a doctor. And so many of our college campuses have outstanding student health centers and counseling centers, but students just come to college and they don't know how to make an appointment, even with these student health centers and with these counseling centers. So that's just another one of those basic skills that I think students arrive at college that they don't have.
I totally agree with that. I think it's such a slippery slope for parents who we want to help, but then sometimes we end up going overboard. I know for me, my younger daughter tends to have her head kind of up in the clouds a lot. So she would call me at school and be like, I forgot this homework assignment and I really, really, really need it. I'm gonna get dinged if I don't turn it in. Can you please drop it off at lunch? And I would sit there finding myself, okay, fine, I'll drop this off and I'll take this to you. And then one day she called and she had forgotten to put shoes on and was at school with no shoes. And at that point, I think I had this moment of like, what am I doing? This is crazy. And I had to kind of help her learn, like, you have to be responsible for basic things like getting ready for school and being prepared.
You've just given a great example of how hard it is for parents to sort of know where to draw that line. And I'm sure it was really hard for you. to let her go through the day without her shoes, but it's an incredible opportunity to enable her to learn, for you to teach her how to take care of herself. Another example of encouraging instead of doing for the child is related to cars. And so many students bring cars to college these days. And frankly, owning a car and operating a car is an adult experience. But when something goes wrong with that car, students kind of freak out. What to do? How do I get it fixed? Where do I take it? Some students don't even know how to really get gas. And so, again, this is an opportunity for parents to provide encouragement, some feedback, some emotional support. And, it's just important that parents give their students a chance to take on that responsibility and do it for themselves. And it's also important for students to understand where their responsibilities start and stop, and which responsibilities on any given day are more important than others. For example, a student emailed me this semester to say, I just can't make it to class today because my phone died and I need the day to go get it fixed. Now, Mackenzie, as well as I do, what it's like to go without a phone for even a minute. So I get it. I understand how critical that is. But there's also a question that I would have. What is more important? Figuring out how to get that phone fixed in a way and at a time that won't interfere with your classes, or just saying, I'm going to skip my class. I think you know the answer that I would suggest a student should land on.
This extends even beyond school, and it can affect their future. I think you've had examples where you've worked with, students who are post-college and aren't quite dealing with these skills very well.
Yeah, there are some crazy, crazy examples of parents who will actually call an employer after a child has interviewed for a job or received a contract and say, that wasn't my child's best day. I hope you'll give them another interview. Or I had a chance to review my child's employment contract. And frankly, I think they're worth more than the salary that you've offered. Crazy to think about. And I know that those parents are the exception, but those kinds of things do happen. And I think that they are examples of times when the parent has really taken the parenting role way, way too far.
That is totally disturbing, and yet I hesitate to say too much because I'm sure there are things that I do sometimes that kind of fall into that, that path.
I don't want this to be a time or a session here where I sound as though I'm trashing parents, because part of the joy of working as a dean of students for the last 40 years has been getting to know so many awesome parents. So, we can all take a little bit of advice or feedback, and that's what this is intended to do.
So we've been talking about some of the kind of basic life skills that come in day-to-day living, but I think they go even deeper than that. Can you talk about some of the larger issues that you're seeing?
The skills that I think we all want to develop as adults into adulthood are things like integrity, our ability to problem solve. Self-awareness is a real big one these days. Self-regulation, fairness, collaboration, all of those things are so critical, I think, to our happiness and success, personally and professionally. But more generally, and I think we've already talked about this, children just need to learn how to be responsible for themselves, how to support their families and their communities, and how to help others around them when they need that help. So I recognize, as I said before, that I know that parents are generally, operating from a basis of love and wanting the best for their children. But these kinds of skills that I just named are ones that they need to encourage their children to acquire and give them the opportunities to do so as they are growing up.
That's absolutely great advice, Dean Sue. So now the big question, what can we do to better prepare them for life?
Well, the first thing that I mentioned is parents have to figure out the time and the way in which to best let go, and to turn over some of these responsibilities to their children. And, that's just kind of the opportunities that everyday life presents to parents. There are also some more structured programs that are available. And just getting back to what people can do on any given day, if a child has a problem to solve and an opportunity to make a decision on their own, parents just need to let their children make those decisions, live with those decisions, live with maybe even their non-decisions. Because otherwise, I'm not exactly sure how a child is supposed to learn how to become a responsible adult. I do know it's really hard for parents to observe their children experiencing, frankly, any level of discomfort. But that's what a parent's job is. It's not to eliminate all the discomfort, but to let their child sort of deal with that discomfort and be there, as I said before, to provide the emotional support. I've also heard parents say many times that being a student, particularly in college, but even in high school, is a full-time job, and they need to support their child in getting that full-time job done. By letting them focus exclusively on their schoolwork in high school or in college so that they can get those great grades, so that they can get into a great school, graduate or professional, and get a great job, what parents are actually doing is taking away those opportunities for their child to become a responsible adult.
That really hits me because both my girls are very focused on doing well in academics, and I'll find myself sometimes cleaning up after them because I feel like their time's too valuable.
And you're not doing them any favors. It may be a feeling of short-term comfort, but in the end, that discomfort is going to be experienced, I think, in a bigger and worse way down the road.
With all of your experience in the field, you have become a part of an organization called Ever Scouts. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I'd be delighted to tell you a little bit about Ever Scouts. It's a fun, unique program that invites children to learn how to think critically and problem solve in a community-based, cooperative, collaborative way with other children. It's based on an adventure and a mission, and it's been designed and it is led by experts. And it focuses on teaching all the life skills that I mentioned earlier, like integrity and self-awareness and self-assertion, and curiosity and fairness and compassion and empathy. And again, all the things that we feel that we need to acquire to be happy and successful adults.
I love to hear your passion for this and just your advice. You have so much knowledge and experience working with these really bright young people. So I really appreciate your time here.
Thank you. This has just been, as I said before, a real pleasure. Thank you.
Ready for today's takeaways? Here are the 3 things from this conversation with Sue that will help you the next time you are tempted to order for your child at a restaurant. Number 1, provide opportunities for ownership. Encourage your kid to speak for themselves when talking to adults. Include them in making plans and allow them to step up. Number 2, give them responsibilities. Children need to learn how to be responsible for themselves, their families, and their communities. Give them chores around the house and allow them to practice managing their schedules. Number 3, allow them to feel discomfort and even fail. Let kids make decisions, especially when you are tempted, but out, and allow them to problem solve and learn from these experiences. Thanks for joining me, and for all of your friends who can relate, tell them about Gifted Minds. Check us out on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. Let's go crush this.